Volca-class cruiser came about in the 2360s and became the mainstream warship in the 2370s for the Klingon Defense Force. The ship is a hybrid between Federation and Klingon technology and was meant to replace the aging Klingon bird of prey Vor'cha-class light cruiser. The House of Gowron was the primary source of where these ships came from, and they were only given to those who were on the Council. Only members of the Klingon High Council were allowed to adopt these ships into their houses. They originally were used for status symbol, but then later were brought into the Klingon fold as a mainstream warship. By the 2370s, the smaller and weaker houses were allowed to use these weapons of war. They became mainstream, replacing the Vor'cha-class bird of prey light cruiser and also the aging Katanga. They became a mainstream part of the Klingon Defense Force and were seen in the Cardassian War as well as the Federation War and throughout the Dominion War. One of the major modifications seen aboard this ship is its counterpart, the Vor'cha-class cruiser. Weapons were all forward-facing and became very weak to small attack craft or maneuverable craft. This weakness is no longer attributed to this vessel. This vessel carried 18 disruptors located throughout the ship, giving it a 360-degree arcs to fire, as well as its standard Klingon main weapons were seen in the front. Its primary weapon for destroying ships is an incredibly powerful, heavy disruptor cannon located in the front of the vessel. This ship's forward-facing disruptor cannon, heavy disruptor cannon, was so strong it could destroy a Dominion fighter in one shot, even with its shields up. If it came across a Vor'cha-class bird of prey with its shields down, it also could destroy that ship with one shot. It would also be capable of destroying the Katanga in one shot if its shields were down. This weapon could have destroyed the USS Defiant with its shields down in only 4 shots. It was so strong. The new technology integrated into this vessel were so advanced that it was able to put a shield matrix. It was so strong that it was able to endure 50 shots from Vor'cha birds of prey before its shields went down. The ship also housed new upgraded weapons such as the forward-facing heavy disruptor cannon, which was capable of destroying some starships in one shot, as well as many secondary systems were upgraded. This ship was at par with the Galaxy-class starship as far as technology goes, which is not common with Klingon vessels. They were slightly less advanced than most Federation starships, but the Volca-class cruiser did not suffer from these elements. The Volca-class cruiser also used modern torpedo tubes and did not suffer from any of its counterparts using technology from the 22nd century. It was a fully operational warship and it was modern. The ship became mainstream between many houses in the 2370s and maintained its strength for the Klingon Empire. These ships were being constructed at a large rate and were replacing its counterparts, such as the Vor'cha-class and the Katanga were being decommissioned and removed and replaced with the Volca-class cruisers. These ships were not as heavy as some of the counterparts of the major powers, but these ships were far more maneuverable than most ships of its size. The Volca-class cruiser did not operate typically by itself, but in a small group, and would use special tactics to allow itself to put itself into a position to use its main weapon. When engaging enemy fleets, they would use the smaller vessels in the fleet to distract the ships by attacking them from behind, hoping to pull ships out of alignment to break their fleet organization. Once that happens, it will pick off the stragglers. If they come across a front line which will not break, the Klingons will decloak, attack the vessels, harass the back line, And once the counterattack begins, the Vor'cha-class cruiser will then engage the front line head-on, trying to break through. The Klingon Empire goes out of their way to sacrifice their small ships in order to guarantee the survivability of their large capital ships. Next, we'll take a look at the typical battle tactics that they've seen, especially using against the Cardassians. They'll use their smaller bird of prey to harass the back line of the Cardassian vessels, and they'll try to limit their exposure to their main weapons. And then one of the Klingon birds of prey will go off course, and then hopefully one of the ships that would be on the outsides will try to take it down and follow it. This would lead to the trap. Once the ship has lost formation, this is where the trap is sprung, and the Vor'cha-class cruiser will decloak and use its primary weapon and attempt to obliterate the ship outright. Once the trap has been sprung and the vessel has been eliminated, the Vor'cha-class cruiser will then, with its bird of prey supporting it, start attacking one ship at a time, eventually wiping out the whole fleet. Klingons also like to ambush their enemies. They like to have smaller craft attacking a larger craft, appearing that they're fighting, and when their reinforcements come before they know it, the Vor'cha-class cruiser will decloak and attack them with a surprise. This heavy disruptor cannon brings 520,000 terawatts of damage upon a vessel. Any kind of medium-class starship like the Excelsior, a Galor, or Kvort will take significant damage, and if its shields are not up, it might just obliterate the ship outright. So I made this video slightly different than I typically do. Instead of using statistical data from the show and using my calculations to show powers of shields and hull and things of that nature, I just talked about the ships. I tried to limit the amount of information given and just focused on the actual storytelling and lure of the ships themselves. Do you guys like this style better, or do you prefer go back to the original data charts that I used to use? In the comments, leave a message and let me know. Remember, victory is life.